So I wanted to talk about this new term that I've coined, and I think I've done some research on Grok on this just at the last second to get some stats, and I think I've got some good information to back it up.
Okay.
So I want to debunk the idea of predictive programming. Now, I kind of think it's close to that, but so Grok has given me some information that says that roughly only about 25 to 30% of Americans actually watch like more than one sci-fi movie a month. So like at least half of the country is not watching enough science fiction to fall under the predictive programming.
Don't count me into that. I'm watching that shit all the time. Some of my favorite stuff.
But you're an outlier. You know, you're a host of a paranormal show.
Yeah.
So you don't really count. But like, you know how many people watch reality TV and then they watch the crime dramas and the true crime. So like the percentage of Americans that watch science fiction on a regular basis is just not high enough to support predictive programming across the whole of the country. But what it does support is an idea that I have called predictive anti-programming. And I want to go back to the 80s to show what I think was one of the first examples of this in modern times. When Reagan started the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, and then the media started to call it Star Wars. Nobody believed it. As soon as the media started calling it Star Wars, everybody thought this is just a movie. This isn't true. Space lasers aren't true. And you fast forward today, and the concept of space lasers is still a conspiracy theory. You still find a lot of people who don't think that that exists.
Yeah. I mean, so you don't think that you think it's kind of like an inverse opposite now, even with artificial intelligence and, you know, being able to quickly kind of identify, you know, more of these patterns in people and stuff like that. I mean, I think as far as like predictions and things like that go, I mean, we've seen in movies a lot of the time, you know, like you're saying, stuff that's been put out there to kind of predict the future that's coming. Even if we think it, you know, like futuristic science fiction, hey, that's probably never going to happen, but it's cool to think about. And we've talked about this on the show before, where 5 to 7, maybe 8 years later, that shit actually happens. And we don't know that it's predictive so much as just maybe these guys have the inside track on what's coming. Right. And, you know, they're trying to program, like you said, or prepare people for this shit, or the exact opposite. This is their way of whistleblowing information that they're finding out. I mean, it's hard to know.
Well, like the neuralizer from Men in Black, apparently it started out as red, but then they changed the color to blue later. And like now Japan's actually working on this blue light thing that supposedly erases the memories out of snails or something. It's weird.
Yeah, the Japanese mind eraser. We talked about that on the show not that long ago.
But there's no way that's a coincidence. They had to have at least had the theory that that was a possibility back in the 90s, if not actually had that stuff. But to continue in on the theme of the anti-programming, so my theory is they only need about 15 or 20% of the population to watch these movies frequently enough so that anytime there's a conversation, let's talk about AI, for example, and everybody's talking about how they think that AI is going to be bad, it's going to take over, it's going to be the end of humanity. In 100% of times when I see that, I see a comment section about that, there's somebody in the comment section that says, that's just the Terminator. You watch too many movies. That's just the plot of science fiction. AI is not going to be like that. And I think that's the purpose of putting that stuff into the movies, so that enough people see it, so that every time there's a conversation about it, there's at least one jerk in the crowd who says, that's not true. You just watch too many movies. And I've got a simple mathematical formula to explain this. You X too much Y, whereas X would be watch or read or however you interact with the media, and Y would be the format of the media, like movies, anime, books.
So you think it's a pattern of getting too much of one and not enough of the other?
No, I think it's I think that I've got it. There was a link that I've got. I don't think I want to pull it up right now, but there was stories in the last year or two about social media companies running these experiments, and they called it inoculating against future propaganda. They called it pre-bunking. So the pre-bunking is a real term that they use. They're really doing experiments on this stuff, and it's almost the exact same thing as my theory that they're. Let me pull this up and at least see where. this was from.
So kind of an opposite of what I said, just an overload of both, like just too much of both.
I mean, I guess I don't think that they're trying to give us. Okay, so this was science.org and cam.ac.uk. The inoculation experiments. These are two major organizations that have put out stuff on this. I don't believe that the government is trying to give us the playbook on what they're planning to do to us. That doesn't make any sense. And like I said, not a large enough percentage of the population is actually watching these movies for it to change the minds of most people. They're purposely putting this stuff out ahead of time so that there's always one person in the conversation who says that's just a movie, that's just science fiction.
Interesting. So you don't think that you think that these are being released specifically just for that reason, that leaving no possibility that some of these directors or producers are trying to actually warn some of the people who are paying attention that this is coming in some way, shape, or form, or trying to capitalize off of getting this information early ahead of time, even though they know it's going on now?
Some of the directors might be putting it out for that purpose. I'm not counting that out entirely. But you know, Hollywood is the American government's propaganda wing. So, and they check all these scripts, and it takes so long for the movie to get produced that I have trouble believing that the producers and the directors are actually getting this by the government, and they're not checking it out beforehand.
You know, honestly, it's interesting to me because it makes me wonder sometimes if some of these people just fucking had the idea right off the bat, didn't get it from anywhere, didn't find it anywhere, just accidentally had the idea of this shit. And when it actually reached the public, some of these guys up on top, whoever you want to call them, however you want to refer to them, because I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but who's them though? Whoever the fuck is in charge and is calling the shots on some of these things, whoever's researching this to pass that information along with these guys, just say, hey, check this crazy shit out. Let's put some money behind this and see if we can actually do it. You know, I think there's a possibility that some of the stuff that has come out has been just indirect correlation with things that they learned from watching movies, as opposed to having that information ahead of time put into a movie to kind of, like you said, predictively program people into knowing that it's coming, or being completely okay with it when it does happen and saying, oh yeah, this is just like that movie.
I've heard some people theorize that Hollywood's actually been mining the Akashic record, and that a lot of these directors are basically like low-key psychic, and they're pulling from the future or from the multiverse or whatever. And considering how much stuff I've seen that's come true, I kind of think that might actually there might be some veracity to that. Like the payphone scene from Terminator 2, like that's happening now. They've got there was some dude in a major corporation who got fired because he lost $250,000 of the company money because he got a phone call, and the phone call, the voice was his boss, and the boss says, transfer this money into this account. Here's the number. So he does it, and it turns out that it was a deep fake, and it wasn't his boss at all. It was just AI.
You're referring to the scene where John Connor's stepmother has already been murdered, and the T-1000 takes control of her, mimics her voice, and tries to call him and get him to come home.
Right, exactly. I actually think that's going to start happening to regular people like soon, that regular people are going to get a phone call, and it's going to be like their mom, their dad, their son, their wife on the other end of the phone. And it's not going to be. And I think that's going to start to become prevalent. And if that does become prevalent, like how long are people going to pay for their cell phone bill if they have to follow up in real life in person after every phone call they make to make sure that was actually the other person and they heard it?
No, I completely agree. I think that's definitely coming. I kind of refer to it as the Mockingjay theory, where if you ever saw the Hunger Games, there's a part in, I believe, the second one where they had the Mockingjays programmed to repeat screams and cries from some of the contestants' loved ones in the game to kind of freak them out and make them think that these people had been taken hostage, or that they were actually there being held somewhere in the arena. and being used, for God knows what, or being tortured or what have you, to kind of instill this fear, this anguish into these people and kind of throw them off their focus, in the hopes that they get fucking killed off. Do you see this being, something that's just used as, by like telecommunications companies, people trying to contact you about your fucking car's extended warranty? Or is this going to be more like weaponized against people, tricking people into giving up their information, tricking people into leaving and going to places on a whim because they think that they're going to see somebody else and being met with something else entirely when they get there? I mean,
honestly, the scary part about that to me is the answer is yes, that there's a reason for foreign actors to do it. There's a reason for scammers to do it. There's a reason for AI might just do it. It might originally get programmed to do it out of malice. It might decide to do it on its own. There's a motive for just psychopaths to do this just for kicks. There's a bunch. It is not looking good, in my opinion, for telecommunications in the next couple of years.
Yeah, dude. And in the years to come, it's even scarier, with AI, with the possibility of literally robots being able to kind of do this shit. All they have to do is just learn and mimic a voice pattern. We already know AI can do it. We've seen it through, Suno and AI music apps that are just instantly able to generate a voice and a beat and sing the lyrics that, you put a few lyrics in and it writes a whole goddamn song for you in about 2 minutes, That right there is kind of a precursor to this entire thing, where it's going to be possible just based off of you speaking for a few seconds, or, entering in some text speech, them analyzing some of your posts and finding out what your interests are, the things that you like to talk about, and literally weaponizing that data against you.
Something that I looked this up a couple of weeks ago, and to me, this is crazy. So the first commercially available voice synthesizer chip was in a toy called the Speak and Spell. I don't know if you know what that is. I had one when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember those. It's crazy.
So if you fast forward to the 90s, around 93 was when the first commercially available gigabyte hard drives, you could get one, and it was like $1,000 for a 1 gigabyte hard drive. But if you tried to like digitize a CD, like a whole music album, like it would take you $1,000 and you could fit one album on that hard drive in 93. And now, a little over 30 years later, the computers are so advanced that they can make the music they can write it, they can do all the instruments. And in 30 years, it's gone from computers can barely even play back CD quality audio to it can make it itself, and way faster than people. If technology was a species and it was evolving this fast, we would all be in 100% panic mode. I think that AI and this technology is actually way worse than the nukes, because the nukes could never launch themselves. We had to do that. We had to build the nukes. We had to launch the nukes. And now they can just launch themselves. The AI can.
Yeah. And that really ties into like a Mission Impossible kind of scenario. With the last movie that they came out with, the Final Reckoning and everything like that, this AI just basically is like, it's got everything it needs to just wipe humans off the planet. We've seen it in a couple of different movies, but it basically starts taking over NORAD and things like that, and hijacking all of the countries across the world's nuclear capabilities, and with the intent of complete global annihilation. That's definitely one of the larger fears that I have. You know how much I hate this shit. I almost completely refuse to work with it. There have been a couple of times I've had to use it to kind of disseminate information or look through something quickly, and it is kind of useful for stuff like that. But my thing is, and I've said it a million times, you guys know this, the pros and the cons have always outweighed the pros for me. So I definitely think we're headed in a crazy direction with the possibilities this shit is going to afford, and it's scary to see what it's already doing. So I'm 100% with you, brother. I think it's a problem, and I don't know that we're going to be able to address it at this point, because the cat's been out of the bag long enough to where I don't think it's going to go back in,
Yeah, now it's like another nuclear arms race. So yeah, there's no way we can stop it, because everybody's fallen into the same trap that we did in the Cold War. If we don't build it, they will. So now it's essentially building itself, even though it's still humans. We've fallen into that psychological trap. So there's no more guardrails. There's no more stops. We're going.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no stopping it now. That's really the terrifying part. But you got anything else you want to talk about or shout out, man?
I've been using Grok a lot lately for my for some of these theories. I kind of don't think that the average person needs to avoid it. Like, don't have it think for you and like do your work. But I don't think that interacting with it's accelerating it. You know, the government's putting trillions of dollars into this, so they're going to do it anyway. Back to the predictive anti-programming that I started with. I ran all this by Grok and had it do the statistical analysis of how many people watch it and ask it what percentage of the population would need to watch it for predictive programming to make sense. And I know a lot of people might disagree and say, well, Grok's wrong, but Grok agrees with me. It says that it doesn't matter. There's not enough people watching for predictive programming to work, but that you only need one or two people per conversation for the anti-programming thing to work, for somebody to say that's just a movie. You have a psychological problem because you believe that the movie's real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's, on the scale that we're on, it's not hard to understand it's really because people are just so focused on other shit now. It used to be movies and TV shows were the only thing that there was out there to watch, and the more kind of advertised it was, the bigger stars that were in the movie, the more geared people were towards wanting to see it. It turned into one of those things where, have you seen this movie? Have you seen this show? Holy shit! And I mean, we still have that sometimes. But it does seem a lot less common, unless it's an absolute fucking blockbuster that the whole world is waiting for and talking about, that a lot of stuff we're at the point now where stuff goes into the theaters and it's out on digital in 2 weeks if it flops at the box office, So that goes to show right there, it's not making enough money, because it's not generating enough views. There's not enough interest in it. And the shit just immediately goes to video so that the people that are interested in it can buy, and they can suck that money out of them while they can and try to make back all the debt that they, dumped into the CGI and shit on these movies and whatever else they were doing. Yeah, it's kind of a testament to what you're saying. Just people just don't watch the shit anymore.
Yeah, and the movie theaters are dying out. I think a big reason the movie theaters are dying out is because Gen Z does have the anxiety problems that they claim that they have, and nobody wants to go into the crowds of people. And concerts are dying too. Last year, Pink was like the number 3 concert ticket seller. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. I didn't even know she was still doing music.
Yeah, she was behind Taylor Swift, Coldplay, and then Pink, of all people. I mean, her music's not awful, but Jesus, not to be number 3.
No, and I'm honestly surprised Coldplay is still in that list. I wonder if that had anything to do with the fucking kiss cam that went viral.
I don't know. I think it was before that.
Okay. that debunks my theory then on that one. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you calling in. I was going to call it, but I think we're going to get another couple callers in. Kellen actually wants to join us, so I think I'm going to let him in the room here in just a minute. We'll hang out for a little bit longer with you guys, but I appreciate you calling in, man, and give us a call back when you got some more to share, man. You've always got good shit. I love talking to you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Have a good night.